Imagine that the deal falls through. What do you think is the reaction? Imagine that Bibi gets his wish, that the deal is rejected by the United States. What do you think would be the reaction of the Europeans, the Chinese, the Russians? I mean, when you were director of policy planning, these were your counterparts, you were dealing with them. What's their attitude?
I think that's the worst outcome, is that there's no deal, and it's because of the United States. Because at that point, this coalition that we have pretty miraculously kept together, even the Chinese and the Russians and the Europeans, to keep sanctions on Iran, that coalition will fall apart. It will be seen that there was a deal, that the deal was imperfect but much better than no deal, that the United States, at the behest of Israel, blocked that deal, and at that point our competitors, other nations, will lift their sanctions, and we're going to be stuck with ours and with the ability of the Iranian government to continue progressing toward a nuclear weapon.
There's no 0 hour in diplomacy. There was attempted negotiations in 2009, again in 2010, 12. And so if this deal falls through, at some point people will regroup and rethink. And the best thing that can happen, quite frankly, now that oil is worth half as much as it was when these negotiations began, is that you can renew the kinds of serious economic pressure on the Iranians that will make them rethink this. And by the way, I think this deal suffers from this tremendous defect of the sunset of the sunset provision, telling the Iranians that in 10 years they're in the free and clear when it comes to building any kind of nuclear infrastructure.
It was never going to be a permanent deal in perpetuity. There was always going to be some.
No, but look, this began with discussions of 20 years, even generations. 10 years is literally nothing. The goalposts have just retreated, and the West keeps moving towards the Iranian position.
Yeah, the goalposts have moved precisely because we have not been willing to agree to a deal that would freeze it where it was. So they've gotten steadily more closer to getting a nuclear weapon, more centrifuges, more enriched uranium, and if we don't get a deal, there's nothing to stop them.
By the time we go to the next round of negotiations, they will be even closer. And whether oil prices stay low or stay strong, there is not the appetite for this kind of massive economic pressure in other countries that are not as ideologically opposed to Iran as us, that are more dependent on Iranian oil, to imagine that we can get not just back to this coalition, but to a much stronger coalition, and that we will be able to retard the progress Iran has made in the interim. I just don't know anyone who seriously studies either Iranian politics or global politics vis-a-vis the other major powers in the world who thinks that's possible.